Alrighty, welcome to those who are just joining us for our virtual college exploration program in partnership with Cachet. This is the Colorado School of Mines information session. I'm going to kick us off with housekeeping items. First and foremost, we have more sessions with Cachet through Thursday evening, so feel free to check back on our schedule for more session participation opportunities. And when you register for any of these sessions, you do get a barcode in that confirmation email, but know that that barcode is not necessary for any of the virtual events that you participate in. We are recording all of these sessions and posting them to our website shortly after the session concludes. So whether you want to rewatch a session you participated in or watch one you may have missed, just check back on our website for that recording. And then you'll notice you'll be able to see the Minds team and hear them. Unfortunately, they cannot see or hear you. This is webinar style format. So any questions you have throughout the presentation, feel free to click that Q&A box and type those questions, and the presenters will do their best to address those throughout the presentation. So I'm going to hand it off to Ivan now to start with introductions. Thanks, Ivan.
That's great. Thank you. Give me just a quick second. Let me go ahead and share a quick presentation, and we'll go ahead and get started. There we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Ivan Montes. I am an admissions counselor here at Colorado School of Mines, and I'm really excited to be here today. Today, we actually have one of our current students as well. She will be joining us through this presentation. And like Jen says, if you have any questions, feel free to type in your questions in the chat function, and we'll be able to answer your questions throughout the presentation as well. So Tara, would you like introducing yourself? Give us your name, your major, and what year you're in.
Yeah, I'm Tara Clapham. I'm going to be a sophomore in civil engineering in the fall, and yeah, that's about it.
Great, thank you, Tara. And also, really quick, Tara, what extracurricular activities are you involved in here at Mines?
Well, I work at the admissions office. I also work at the bookstore, and for clubs, I'm involved with SWE and then the Colorado School of Mines mining team, which I highly suggest you guys look into.
Great, thank you, Tara. So let's go ahead and get started, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. So with that, let's go ahead and talk first briefly about some traditions that we have here at Mines. So we have the M Climb. So the M Climb is a tradition. So we have an M on top of Mount Zion. It's this big M that's very visible from far away. We have a tradition here. So the tradition is all first-year students get to hike the M. It's about a 3-mile hike. But as you're hiking up the M, we ask that you bring a 10-pound rock from home. Yes, you heard that right, a 10-pound rock from home. The reason for it being is you get to carry this rock with you, and once you reach the top of the M, you get to place this rock in the M, and that symbolizes the beginning of your journey that you're about to begin here at Mines. Not just that, but it also symbolizes, you know, a piece of home that you're bringing with you to Colorado. So that is kind of the M Climb. And then also, I have a hard hat here with me. So what's neat about these hard hats is that all of our students get a hard hat, and it's been a different color for the past 25 years. I think Tara's about to go ahead and get her hard hat as well. So this hard hat kind of resembles a class that you're coming into Mines with, which is really cool because as you're hiking up the M, all of our students, they spray paint the hat. It's really, really cool. And Tara, would you like to add anything about your experience climbing up the M Climb? And I see you have your hard hat.
Yeah, so I have to admit my rock was like 5 pounds. I didn't want to haul a 10-pound rock up. But so it starts when they give you a hard hat, and then you walk into the IM fields and they like spray your hard hats. I think my RA was one of the people, and they just color around with spray cans and they'll spray paint your hard hat, and then you hike up the mountain. And so I hiked up with my roommate and some of her friends and got to know a bunch of people. And then we would walk by all the clubs that were available on campus. And so I got to see the robotics club. There's a Formula One car. And I think the mining one, they sprayed a water truck. So you get sprayed with water typically. And then when you're at the top, you get to place your rock, and then they throw whitewash on you, which is the white stuff on the hard hat. So that was fun. I wouldn't suggest wearing nice clothes, but.
Great. And then what happens once you're done with the M Climb?
They bus you down, and then you have a barbecue kind of thing on the IM fields. So
Yeah, so that is the M Climb, and this is a really neat tradition for all of our first year students here at Mines. The second tradition that has been going on for almost 100 years, I believe this year was our 90th anniversary, is E-Day. So E-Day stands for Engineering Days, and this event takes place in the spring semester, usually 2 or 3 weeks right before your spring semester finals, where we have a weekend of festivities. So the kickoff of E-Days is on Friday, and on Friday, what we do is we actually march to the Capitol here in Denver, Colorado. As you can see, we love walking, we love hiking, we love marching. So our students get to hike, we get to march to the Capitol. And as we're marching to the Capitol, we have our live mascot, which is Blaster or Burro, and he's pulling our ore cart. And once we reach the Capitol, the governor of Colorado has his proclamation, and he declares the beginning of Engineering Days at Colorado School of Mines, and that's when all the festivities begin. So we have concerts, we have comedians, we have carnivals, and what's neat about Engineering Days also is our students actually, part of that weekend, our students create boats made out of cardboard. We have a creek here in Golden where our students get to race their cardboard boats down the creek. And it's really, really cool to see because year after year, our students come up with different creativities, different boats. Quite honestly, I would say a lot of the boats fail, but it's just really neat to see the excitement and the engineering and the ingenuity that our students have here at Mines. I believe a couple years ago, there was a boat that was a replica of the Titanic. So students were holding down the boat, and as they were going down Clear Creek, the students let down of the boat, and the boat split in half, and the students fell in the water. But get this, it is April, so it's like mid-April, and the water is freezing. Sometimes, you know, we are still getting snowfall. Sometimes it's really, really cold. So it's just a really, really cool tradition that we have here at Mines during E-Days. And then we conclude our E-Days with our fireworks show display. And I'll tell you a little bit more about our fireworks show display once I get to that slide, because it's really, really cool. And there's something unique about our fireworks that really makes us really special. So these are some great traditions that we have here at Mines. Unfortunately, Tara didn't get to really experience E-Days this year. Everything was virtually, but I have heard from students that our virtual events were so much fun this year because they created the whole Mines campus community on Minecraft. They were able to replicate every single dorm, every single dining hall, literally every single detail that you can imagine was replicated on Minecraft. So that is the traditions here at Mines. Oops, excuse me, there we go. Mines is a STEM-focused institution. So we currently have 37 undergraduate majors. And as you can see down the list, some of our, not all 37 of our majors are currently listed here, as some of them have subcategories. But keep this in mind as you're doing college searches. When you apply to Mines, you apply to all 37 of our undergraduate majors. You heard that right, all 37 of them. You actually have until the end of your sophomore year to declare your major. So you really have, 2 years ideally to pick and choose, what is it that you want to major for the rest of your life. Also, we don't cap our majors, which is something that's very important. So some schools potentially might have a capacity at the amount of students that get accepted into a program. We don't. We actually don't cap our majors. And for example, mechanical engineering has like over 800 students, and yet we still don't cap our majors. So those are two great things about Colorado School of Mines. We don't cap our majors, and you get accepted to all of our programs, and you have until the end of your sophomore year to decide what major is it that you want to major in. So you're familiar with minors. So minors are small emphasis that you can minor in. So I like to give this analogy or this, so your major is your hamburger and your minor is your French fry. So it's that side that complements your entree. So here at Mines, we have minors, but we also have areas of special interest. So our areas of special interest, as I like to call those, our mini minors, are usually 12 credit hours, where our minors are 18 credit hours. So one of the things, so if you look down this list of minors and areas of special interest, you can see that there's a wide range of minors and areas of special interest, from music to humanities to engineering to robotics. So yes, even though we are very STEM focused, you also have the opportunity to major in other sorts of things as well. One thing that I wanted to mention is Explosives engineering. So remember that I mentioned to you that we have a huge fireworks show display each year. So what's unique about E-Days is that our students get to create our fireworks. We have a minor in explosives and engineering, which you can find in the second column, which is those students that get to create those fireworks for us each year. So it's really, really cool to see that our students, our own students, get to create these fireworks for us every spring semester. So that is another fun fact about our students here at Mines. So these are just a wide range of minors and areas of special interest that our students can minor in. So I'll definitely want to kind of hear from Tara here as well, but I'll go ahead and give you a quick background of some of our Mines signature experiences that our students go through, or as I like to say, students go through this Mines journey. So all of our students are required to take this class called Cornerstones. It is a freshman design class that you are required to take as a freshman. And the purpose of this class is to kind of mimic what you might experience in the real world. So you're going to be put in a team. You're going to be giving a task, and it's going to be your job with your team to kind of find the problem and the solution that was assigned to you. With that, Tara, do you want to talk a little bit about your Cornerstone experience and what you think is going to set you for the next 3-4 years at your time here at Mines?
Yeah, sure. So Cornerstone was a freshman design class, like you said. So basically they give you a problem that doesn't have one real answer to. So it's kind of a big, broad question. Like for mine, it was like, how can we make infrastructure more sustainable to last for like the next 100 years or something? And I know that they've also had one about like, how can you make products come in more sustainable packages? And so they really teach you how, they give you all the tools you need to learn how to like work in a group and like come up with different designs and prototype, and maybe your first answer won't be the one that you actually go with. Most likely it won't be. So it's just really interesting to get a feel for how that might actually work in the future. And it's not just like, yeah, there's exactly one answer and we only want you to get to that answer. It really pushes you to think outside the box and come up with some weird designs.
Thank you. And that is Cornerstone. Then field session is also a requirement by all students here at Mines. So field session does vary. It usually takes place the summer going into your sophomore year or the summer going into your junior year. So this usually is a 3 to 6 week summer program where you will be working with, within your major going into the field. So this is a really cool experience for you to kind of, put yourself out there, really kind of learn what you might be practicing in the field. I know, Tara, you haven't done field session yet, but do you know what your field session would look like and what that might entail?
Yeah, so I think we're going to focus a lot on surveying and working on projects like that. I'm doing my field session next summer, but yeah, I know my roommate wanted to do hers this summer. She's in mining engineering, and I think they did a lot of learning, and then they got some hands-on work too. So.
Yeah. And then research, Mines is a very small research institution. What's unique about our undergraduate research, believe it or not, is that if you are interested in research, you can actually do research early on as early on as your freshman year. That is correct. If you find faculty on campus that you're really, really excited about of some of the research that they're doing on campus, you can definitely start doing research early on in your career. But do know that that's something that is available to you as an undergraduate here at Mines. And then lastly is Cornerstone, or Capstone, Capstone, which is your senior design project. And Capstone usually takes place the last 2 semesters at your time here at Mines. So for the first 2 years, you'll be working with our advising office, CASA. So CASA will be able to help you and guide you through your first 2 years. Once you have declared your major, your junior and senior year, you'll have a faculty or an advisor who will help you and guide you through the last 2 years at Mines. He or she will also be helping you through your capstone presentation. So during the last 2 semesters, you'll be working with that faculty for the last 2 semesters with your senior design project. There are so many great ideas out there and out there as well. So one of the examples that I like to give out is some of our students created a canoe made out of concrete, believe it or not. So that was one of their kind of senior design projects. There's other senior design projects out there as well, but do know that this is also a requirement by the time you major here at Mines, but you will be working with your faculty or advisor the last 2 years here at Mines. So as you saw, as Tara mentioned, she is highly involved outside of her academics here at Mines. And we currently have over 300 clubs and orgs on campus. I do know it says about 200, but we do have over 300 clubs and orgs on campus. And if we don't have a club on campus, you can actually create your own club as well. All you need is 4 members, and you'll need a faculty or an advisor, and you can create your own club here at Mines. As Tara mentioned, she is part of SWE, which is a Society for Women of Engineers. It is actually the largest in the nation with over 800 members and growing. It's even bigger, fun fact, it's even bigger than our athletics program. Our athletics program is usually around, say a little bit less than 700 students. So there's so many students, so many women in STEM here involved in SWE. Tara, do you want to talk a little bit about SWE and what the Society for Women Engineers is?
Yeah, it's just it's a good place for you to make connections, and it helps a lot when you get out of school and you're going into the real world. And so it's really nice to have that group to help you make connections. They also, I think they had lectures to help you out, and they would provide free lunch on Wednesdays. I had a class, so I didn't make it, sadly. But so it's just a group to help you find people and connect with them. There are also a lot of groups like the American Society of Civil Engineers, and they can also help just connect you with people and make it easier when you get out of school.
Great, thank you. And that is correct. I think as Tara mentioned it, during these times, a lot of our students are also a part of this because there's workshops throughout the year that students can be a part of as well. And that's where that free lunch comes in. So that's sweet. And then we also have fraternity and sorority life on campus and fraternities for sororities. 5 multicultural engineering programs here on campus that are housed in our MEP house. So MEP stands for the Multicultural Engineering Program, which is this house pretty much on the center of campus that houses all of these programs. And then throughout the year and throughout the semester, there's a lot of different events that are happening, from movie nights to comedy nights to our homecoming nights. So definitely take advantage of all of our events. They're a great way to definitely be involved in. So as a first-year student, you are required to live on campus. We currently have 9 residence halls on campus. We're really excited because we just got done building 2 brand new residence halls. We got done building a brand new freshman dorm as well as a brand new sophomore dorm. So there's a lot of more live-on options opportunities for our students to be a part of here at Mines. Within our residence halls, we have what we call our themed learning communities, or our TLCs. So our themed learning communities are communities that you get to choose to be a part of, and you get to surround yourself with other students that might have the same interests as you do. For example, the Adventure Leadership Themed Learning Community is a community that students can choose to be a part of. And these students like the outdoors. So I've heard of these students go biking, hiking, snowboarding, go on a 14-hour sunrise hike, meaning they wake up at like 1 or 2 in the morning. By the time they get to the mountain and to the peak, they're seeing the sunrise. So these are some of just the activities, that our students do during this time of the year. We also have our nucleus, which is for our first generation students, visual and performing arts, athletics and wellness. So there's a lot of great communities to be a part of here at Mines. We also have athletics, so we have 18 Division II varsity teams on campus, 20 club sports, over 550 intramural teams. And what's neat about our intramural teams is that they are year-round, so we have like indoor soccer, indoor football. We also have a pool on campus. One of the fun things that I like to point out is one of the intramural teams on campus is called Battleship. So students gather on the pool, and the objective of the game is for you to fill your opponent's boat with water until it sinks. So yes, as you can see, there's pretty much a club or intramural team on campus to be a part of. And then with that, we have won some championships as well as some academic awards as well in previous years. And then Tara, I do want to kind of, before I move on to the next slide, I know you lived on campus. Do you want to talk a little bit about kind of what you love living on campus? And were you, I can't remember, were you a part of a theme learning community?
No, but one of my friends was, and she absolutely loved it. It was all she could talk about. But I lived in Bradford, which was one of the more traditional halls. So I really liked just the ability to be around people. I had 2 roommates, and some of my best friends that I made were like right down the hall, and so we'd go into their rooms and have movie nights and squeeze a bunch of us into their tiny little room and just enjoy watching Disney movies and Pixar, stuff like that.
So
Go ahead.
you really enjoyed living on campus.
I did. I'm glad I did. I don't think I would have gotten nearly the same experience at home.
Thank you. Perfect. So if you're not familiar with Colorado School of Mines, Mines is a small to medium-sized school. We're about 5,000 students undergraduate and about 1,400 students grad students. So we're not too big, but yeah, we're not too small. So it's kind of like the perfect size in between. And usually our incoming class is usually about 1,300 students, about 12 to 1,300 students that come into Mines. So you can kind of have an idea of the amount of students that you will be coming into Mines with. About 54% of our students are from Colorado. Majority of our students, we have 2 of our bigger states where we get a lot of students from as well. So we get a lot of recruits from Texas and California. And then that 92% retention number. So what does this mean? So this means that 92% of our sophomores are returning back. And this is actually a very high yield number for us because it's really letting us know as an institution that our students are really, really enjoying the Mines community and they are coming back. The 8% does vary. We see that a lot of that 8% has to do with STEM. A lot of students come to Mines, they realize that STEM isn't necessarily their interest and they'll transfer elsewhere. But our students are highly involved on campus. They really enjoy the education. They really enjoy the hands-on team building activities that they have here at Mines, and they are coming back, such as Tara, we being one of our students, so she's coming back, she's highly involved, and she really enjoys the Mines and the Golden community. So 97% of our classes here at Mines are taught by faculty. 30% of our students here at Mines are women, and that is a great number, and we hope to increase that number in the future by 40%. Your average class size will be about 34 students. There are going to be 2 big classes that you might encounter here at Mines. That's going to be your chemistry and your physics class. Those tend to be taught in a lecture classroom, about 150 to maybe 200 students. And then we do have that 15:1 student to faculty ratio. Before we move on to the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about Tara and kind of maybe if you want to talk a little bit about, the faculty here at Mines, Tara, as well as, how was being in a lecture classroom about 150 to 200 students?
The lecture classes were interesting. It was kind of nice to be able to just see everyone, but also with the big classes like physics, they tend to do things that help it make it feel smaller. So you'll have this thing called studio, and it's basically a class where you just work on physics problems for an hour, and so they'll put you in little groups of 3, and so it doesn't feel like a 200-person class where you just get lost in the faces. They have TAs running around, and they'll come and they'll help you out, and they'll answer your questions, and they'll explain it to you even if they've already explained it 5 times, as I learned. But so it's a really good way to meet people in physics and form your own little study groups. Also, in a bunch of the freshman dorms, everyone's taking the same classes, and so we would have like a Sunday physics night thing where we'd help each other out with problems that we just had absolutely no idea how to do. And so I would get my roommate to explain it to me. My poor roommate. But yeah, usually people are super willing to help. And faculty, you asked about faculty. Yeah, I found it really easy to make connections with faculty. Like in physics, I would always go into their office hours, and they were also willing to explain it to me no matter how many times you didn't get it, and they'd change it, and then finally it would click, and you'd both be like, oh my god, I finally get it, and it was great. But there are also lots of TAs, and if you don't if professors are scaring you or something, or you're just too intimidated to go to them, there are lots of other ways to get help on campus. Like they usually have TAs, and then there's this thing called CASA, and they have tutors, and they love to help you. They're so willing to help you.
Thank you for sharing that. Our students are definitely going to appreciate that, Tara. And with that, let's go and talk a little bit about some admissions. So we here at Mines, we are a highly competitive school, so we are looking for a high GPA as well as a high test score. So we're looking for an unweighted GPA of a 3.75. Things are changing a little bit, so I do want to know if anyone is interested in Mines for the incoming class of fall of 2021. We're not necessarily requiring the test scores as a requirement for our students. It is going to be a test optional, so do know that that's an option for you. That will not be a deciding factor when you come to Mines. But we are reviewing your application holistically. So we're also looking at your extracurricular activities, your community service, your involvement, your letters of recommendation, your personal statements. All that information will be taken into consideration when reviewing your application. Our application is currently open and online. You can find that in the admissions website. So with that, we will need an official high school transcript. And if you do decide to submit your test scores, even though they are not required, you can definitely submit them officially or self-report them yourself on the application. So you have until, ideally, we have two priority deadlines. So we have a priority deadline of November 1st. So if you apply between now and November 1st, you will have a decision from the admissions office by December, usually around December 21st or so. If you can still apply after the November 1st deadline, but do know that you won't have a decision probably until the following year. Until the following year, which is that spring semester. So our regular application deadline will be January 15th. So do know you have some time, but it's best if you apply early on rather than later. So apply early, stay engaged, write those letters of recommendation, and provide us, as much supplemental information. So some merit-based scholarships. So for our Colorado School of Mines is a public university, so we have in-state and out-of-state tuition. For our in-state students, Colorado School of Mines will award you between $1,000 and $5,000. For our out-of-state students, we'll award you between $8,000 and $14,000. So this is an estimate of kind of the price that you might be anticipating and paying here at Mines. Your room and board does tend to be the most expensive year for the first year, which is at $14,000. But don't let these numbers discourage you, because here are some numbers that I would like you to take away with. So on average, our students have an average salary about $69,000. We're also the number 8 in the country for return on investment, meaning that the amount of money that you are going to invest here at Mines, you'll be able to pay that off in return just based on your degree. We also host 2 huge career fairs each year, once in September, once in February, where we bring over 400 companies to these fairs. These companies are really just looking for Mines students. They're looking either for someone that's about to graduate from Mines to offer them a full-time job, or they're also looking for someone who might be interested in an internship. So about 76% of our students here at Mines have some sort of an internship opportunity. With that, I'm not quite sure, Tara, but did you by any chance attend our career fair either in this fall or in the spring semester?
Yeah, I did. It was kind of overwhelming, but it was a really good experience because I got to practice my pitch, which is basically me trying to give a 30-second speech on why you should hire me. And I know that doesn't sound fun. It wasn't quite as fun, but it was really good practice for when I might actually need that speech, like when I'm looking for an internship. But it was also really nice to just see how many companies actually wanted to talk to you. Like even if you went up to a booth and you weren't quite sure about whether or not you might even consider working for them, they were so happy to talk to you. They also had free stuff, and free stuff is nice. But
Free stuff is always nice.
But it was a good experience. I highly recommend you go, even if it's just to look around and learn some more about companies.
I agree. Thank you for sharing that. I definitely agree with you, Tara. I couldn't agree with you anymore. It's definitely a great way to start networking, to start putting your foot in the door. Yes, the career fairs are overwhelming. It's a lot of companies. There's tables next to tables, but it's definitely a great opportunity for at least you to kind of see what's around, see if there's any companies that might be interested in working with or potentially interning with. So definitely check out the career fair Our career office is also exceptional. They do a great job. So definitely also check out the career office when you are at Mines. And with that, we're currently the #1 best valued college in the state of Colorado. We're the #1 public school west of the Mississippi with its highest salary 10 years out from now. So you will be west of the Mississippi, you will be the highest paying salary. And with that, we do see that our 2019 graduates had a positive, 94% of them had a positive outcome when they graduated from Mines, meaning that 6 months after they graduated, they either had a job right after college or they potentially went on to get a PhD or a master's degree. So that is a high yield number for us as well, because we know that our students are getting jobs straight out of college when they graduate from Mines. And that does conclude our presentation. So we do actually have some time for some Q&As as well. We have about 15 minutes. But before we do that, I do want to go ahead and thank you all for joining me in this presentation. If you have any questions, you can always email admissions@mines.edu or always give us a call. We are currently in the office, so we'll be more than happy to answer your questions as well. And then lastly, if you are from out of state or even from in-state and you're planning on visiting Mines anytime soon, we're actually offering tours. We do have on-campus tours, but we are offering them at a very limited capacity. So only 9 people are allowed to come on a tour. I'm sorry, we're only allowed to host 9 people. And if you do decide to come, you can only bring 1 guest with you. And we'll definitely, provide you a tour of campus, and you'll be able to kind of see the Mines and the Gold community. With that, we are going to go ahead and leave it up to some questions. So let me go ahead and bear with me. Perfect. So we will leave it up to some questions. What questions can I help you answer? So one of the questions is, Tara, what does a typical schedule look for a freshman?
It varies by person depending on what you're doing outside of classes, but typically they'll give you like 16 to 17 when you first start out, which sounds like a lot, but it's pretty easy to manage, and at least it was in my opinion. So usually I'd go to classes during the day and then I'd be done by like 4, and so I picked up a job at the bookstore, and so I'd go and I'd work at the bookstore during some of my off periods, and then on Mondays, Thursdays, and Sundays, I would go to mining practice, which best club on campus, you should join. So I'd go to mining practice, and then I'd have a couple hours to do homework, so I'd usually be done by like 8, and then I'd just go and chill with my friends.
And with that, what would you say so far? What has been your favorite class at Mines?
Surprisingly, it was the Haas class, which is like the humanities. Like when I first got to Mines, I was like, oh, they're making me take another English class. But it was really surprisingly helpful. Like I had nature and human values with this professor, and he was great. He really focused on the nature part, and so I learned about all of the like ethical things that like the engineers have. Like you hear about doctors having ethical issues and like things that they have to address, but you never really think of engineers having them. And so it really opened my eyes to see like you're not just building stuff, the repercussions for your actions, and you need to be able to focus on that. Like salting the roads, I wrote a paper on whether or not we should salt the roads, and before I had written the paper I was like, oh yeah, sure, why not, what's the impact? And then I researched it further and I was like, oh, maybe we shouldn't be doing that. It's kind of bad for the environment.
Definitely. So, we hear from, students across the board that Mines is a hard and rigorous institution. What would you say was your biggest shock when coming to Mines?
Well, so I didn't know anyone when I came to Mines, and I just had this thought that we're all engineers, I'm an introvert, it's going to be really hard to find people. I was very wrong, and I'm so happy that I was wrong. I met so many people, and they were all super helpful and willing to like do things with me, and it wasn't really hard to socialize, and so it really helped me like open my shell and like grow as a person. I met some awesome people, like my roommate. She was great, and my best friend. So I don't know, I was kind of shocked that just how easy it was to make friends and not be isolated.
And I think that's a great advice, to kind of, definitely hear from our students. And we briefly, with that, so we have a question that says, is there help for students to build resumes and find jobs here on campus?
Yeah, the Career Center is great for that. On Career Day, they offered to let you put 10 resumes for free. So, which was really nice. I definitely took them up on that. And I gave my resume out to lots of companies, but they also helped you with resume workshop stuff. And I went to my RA who was really helpful with that, surprisingly. But she was super willing to help. And most of the people who are upperclassmen who have already been through this once, they're super willing to look over your resume and make sure that it looks good and help you out and give you advice for your elevator pitch. So it was helpful.
I heard, yes, I've heard it's definitely very helpful to definitely take advantage of that. So we've talked quite a few about, tutoring on campus, career fairs on campus. What other resources on campus would you say have been beneficial to you, and what have you done from them?
Well, I utilized TA hours a lot, especially for physics. They were willing, they're paid to be there and paid to help you, and they're super into physics, which I don't get. But so they were willing to just sit down and do the problem with you and go over it, and you would be like, well, why is it that number? And they'd go into an explanation, and you'd be like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And with math, I didn't particularly love my math professor, and so I went into CASA instead to get help with math. And I met this library tutor person. She was amazing. She was there every Monday, and so I had a standing appointment every Monday to go in and do my homework with her, and she was super helpful. She would explain it in a way that I just didn't quite click with the professor, which sometimes that happens. It definitely wasn't the professor's fault, but it was really nice to have another tutor there to help out and explain it in a different way. She had also been through the class, and so she had a lot of helpful things. Before I went over there, I was saving it until Sunday night because I was like, well, I don't quite know what to do, and so maybe I'll know by Sunday. That was bad thinking. So she would help me, and she was like, you need to be proactive about things, and you need to ask questions in class. And she was giving me little tips and tricks on things to remember and the way that they phrase things on the exams that could help me help it click in my brain. This is the equation you should use. And so it was really nice. Physics, they did that a lot too.
And I've heard, yeah. So with that, I'll go ahead and take some admissions requirements as well. So we have a question about, what on-campus jobs does Minds offer? Well, quite honestly, if it wasn't for students such as Tara, or any university would not really exist. So students work all across the board, from the library to the student center, to working front desk assistants, to our tour guides, to our student ambassadors, to our RA. So there's definitely so many job opportunities out there for our students to be involved in. So like I said, if it wasn't for our students, no university will be running, because our students really are the ones that run our campus. They're all over the place. So there's definitely so many jobs for you to be involved in here on campus. It really depends on your interest and what you're interested in doing, but there's a wide range of jobs here on campus. Also, it says, so someone wants to talk a little bit more about some of our admissions requirements. So yeah, so I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about some of our requirements. So when applying to Minds, we are looking, when reviewing your application, we're looking for an unweighted GPA of a 3.75. But don't let that number discourage you, because that's only your middle 50%. We've definitely accepted students with lower GPAs rather than a 3.75, because we review your application holistically. We're looking for well-rounded students. We're looking for students, that are doing extracurricular activities, that are doing community service, that they have a job after, once they were in high school. Did they do any sports? I think all that information will be taken into account. So don't let that 3.75 discourage you, because that's only our middle 50% of our students here at Minds. So we're also looking at, your letters of recommendation, your personal statements, when looking at your transcript, we're looking to see if you've taken some high-level course math and science courses, primarily, calculus, chemistry or physics. I think those are very important classes that we are looking at for our students. When looking at a transcript, that's what we look at. And the reason for it being is we want you to have some sort of a basic foundation when coming to Minds. We don't want you to be blindsided. We don't want you to fail. We really want you to succeed here at Minds. So we really, really want you to have some sort of a foundation, when coming into Minds. So, calculus, chemistry, and physics are great classes to take and that we look at when looking at your transcript here at Minds. So those are some admissions requirements. And like I said, for anyone who will be an incoming student, anyone who is interested in being who will be in the freshman class of fall of 2021, we're not requiring your test scores as an admissions requirement. That might change for the future, but just know that in the current situation that we're in, that is not going to be a requirement and will not be a deciding factor when looking at your application. So that's some admissions requirements. So hopefully that was able to answer, your question. And then another question that we have give me just a second. So another question is, are there programs that Minds hosts that high school students can participate? Yes. And Tara is actually she's one of our student mentors for one of our programs. But there's so many programs out there for our students. We have programs for underrepresented students, for first generation students. There's also programs where students can be involved in, summer camps. So there's definitely great programs that our students can be involved in here at Minds. So yes, there's definitely programs that you can be a part of here at Minds. We have
There's a question about sleep schedules. Can I answer that one real fast?
Go for it, yes.
It really depends on what you want to do with your sleep schedule. Personally, I was in bed by 11 every night and I loved it. But my roommate would come in and she had a different sleep schedule and it was like midnight to I think like 6. And so it really depends on what you want to make of your sleep schedule. So if you want to pull all-nighters, you can, but if you balance the work, you can be in bed by like 10 or 11 and get up at 7 and have a full 8 or 9 hours. So it really depends.
It really does depend. And one thing that I forgot to mention in the application process, thank you for pointing this out, is do we require an essay as part of your application process? The answer is yes and no, I would say. But when you're looking through our application, you see that we have 2 personal statements that you can elaborate more on. They are optional, but we are highly encouraged that you put some thought into these personal statements as we will review those. They do vary year after year, but for example, one of them is talking about, why are you interested in Minds and what is it about Minds that really sparks an interest in you? So, definitely put a little bit of effort into those personal statements, but we won't necessarily be requiring an essay as part of your application process. But we are encouraging that you submit some sort of an essay question as we will review those processes. And we have a couple minutes. We have actually a few minutes for a couple more questions. We'll go ahead and answer a couple more and finish off. So someone wants to talk a little bit about, the merit-based scholarships. So with that merit-based scholarships, that is going to look a little bit differently. It's a little bit hard to explain, but what the merit-based scholarship is really going to entail is your application as a whole. We will be reviewing, like I said, your application holistically. So if you're highly involved outside of school, outside of your academics, those are going to be a certain pointage that will go towards that, your overall kind of total points. So it's a little bit hard to explain. Feel free to email admissions@minds.edu, and we can definitely discuss more about it. That way we can kind of, talk a little bit about, but it's kind of an interesting situation that we're in, but that's where we'll be looking at your application holistically. So please submit as much information as you can when applying, because we're going to base it on a point system. And with that, we have a lot of questions about bioengineering and industrial route for chemical engineering. So those are great questions. But I do want to, these are all great questions and we'll make sure to get to them all. But with that, we are running out of time. And I do want to go ahead and thank you all for joining me this afternoon and wanting to learn a little bit more about Colorado School of Mines. Please stay connected with us as you're navigating your college decision process. We are here to help you. We are here as, you know, to help you in any sort of way. So please stay connected with us. Email us at admissions@mines.edu. Give us a call. And like I said, we are offering tours, so hopefully we can see you here in the future. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon.
And thank you, Ivan and Tara, for spending your afternoon with us and sharing this valuable knowledge to all the student audience and counselors. As you all exit the Zoom meeting, you will be taken to a quick survey, 4 questions. We'd love to hear your feedback regarding this particular session. And as I mentioned in the beginning, all of the recordings will be available on our website, and there are additional STEM-focused institution sessions through Thursday evening. So if you're interested in checking out more, please check back on our website. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a great morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are, and are staying happy and healthy out there. Thanks, everyone.